1. Before you watch this video, know this. It is the one you must see. Everything you have been looking for and all you have been trying to understand about the universe and your existence is here. This is not simply information, it is a wake-up call. Watch it, absorb it, and you will see the world in a new way. Imagine a universe where every thought, every feeling, and every soul is part of one great interconnected system, a structure that stretches from the densest physical form to areas of pure consciousness and light. This is not only about science or religion, it is about recognizing the hidden order of existence. We begin with chaos and move upward to the highest states of order and unity. In this model, reality appears in layers, with each layer representing a different state of being and a different level of consciousness. At the lowest level, we find the raw forces of chaos, entropy, and disintegration, an undifferentiated state without form. As we rise, the universe becomes more organized, more refined, and more aware. We progress through levels of energy, from physical matter to mental and emotional states, and finally, to the higher states where the soul and spirit fully blossom. The 12-domain universe shows who we truly are. It mirrors our spiritual evolution, demonstrating how to overcome the constraints of the material world and access the endless capabilities of these higher states. If you have ever wondered what lies beyond, or felt the pull towards something greater, higher knowledge, or a greater awareness, this is the answer. This video explains where you belong in the cosmos and the path your soul is meant to follow. To understand the universe, we begin at its origin, not at the Big Bang or the birth of stars, but at something more basic, the source. The source is pure possibility, the initial force from which everything comes. It is the unformed energy and the consciousness that exists outside of time and space. The source is not something you can see or touch. It is not a traditional God, but the very foundation of reality. Imagine it as the spark that precedes creation, the original singularity where all exists as perfect unity. However, when that unity seeks to express itself, it divides and then takes on form. This is when the idea of duality comes into play: light versus dark, positive versus negative, existence versus non-existence. Here, we meet the void. The void is not empty, but is filled with raw possibility, waiting to come into being. In this model, the void functions like a cosmic womb, a space in which energy waits until it forms. It creates a separation between the unexpressed source and the material universe. The source and the void are not opposed to each other. They work together. The source, as pure possibility, requires the void to bring creation into being. Think of the void as the stage where the play of existence unfolds, and the source as the author, director, and performer all at once. Without the void, the source would remain still and unexpressed. Without the source, the void would remain empty. Together, they form the first step in the progression of the universe, a cycle of creation, dissolution, and rebirth. Remember that the void is not simply nothing, like an empty vacuum. It is alive with possibilities. Every possible version of you and me exists within this void, waiting to take shape. This is the starting point of all creation, the canvas upon which the cosmos is painted. The source represents the ultimate unity, while the void provides the necessary separation that makes creation possible. In this delicate balance of unity and separation, of possibility and manifestation, everything originates. Every soul, every thought, every atom comes from this initial division of the source, passing through the void into states of existence. When you meditate, or consider the nature of existence, you are trying to return to that source, peeling back layers of separation and duality, to remember that, at your core, you are part of this original energy. You are a piece of the source, and just as the universe is coming into form through layers of consciousness, so are you. With the source and the void established, we now look at the highest levels of existence, the higher domains. These are the areas closest to the source, where consciousness is the purest, and where the boundary between the individual soul and the divine starts to blur. We start with the 12th domain and move down through to the 8th domain. These levels are beyond our usual understanding, yet they form the base for everything else. They are not simply higher levels of thought, they are different states of being, where the notion of self disappears into a single, unified order. The 12th domain, the highest of all, is known as the Godhead or the Source Seed. Here, existence remains in its purest form and infinite possibility, without duality, without light or dark, just complete unity with the Creator. In this state, time and space no longer exist. Only endless consciousness and unity remain, often described as pure bliss or ecstasy. It is where everything and nothing exist at the same time, a contradiction that exceeds the limits of language. Moving into the 11th domain, we notice that the energy of the source begins to take shape, though still without physical form. This level is where the original blueprint of creation resides, similar to a cosmic plan that later leads to galaxies, stars, planets, and even souls. Here, the divine mind organizes the endless possibilities of the 12th domain into structures that will eventually appear in lower levels. Next is the 10th domain, known as the Oversoul or Spirit Monad. In this state, the first sparks of individual consciousness emerge while remaining connected to the source. The consciousness here starts to become distinct, forming the seeds of individual souls. However, this is not individuality as we commonly understand it. In this domain, the soul exists as part of a collective awareness, recognizing its unity with all other souls and the divine. It is a state where the soul begins to see its own unique course. This is the place where groups of souls, often called soul families, originate, a collection of souls born from the same spiritual beginning. The 9th domain is where archangels, ascended masters, and high spiritual beings make their appearance. Here, divine beings begin to take on defined roles in the cosmic order. The souls in this level are fully aware of their connection to the source, and they also serve as intermediaries, guardians, guides, and teachers for those below. They oversee the great workings of the universe, directing the flow of energy from the higher levels into the lower ones. They are responsible for the cosmic laws that rule creation and guide the evolution of consciousness across all states of existence. The 8th domain is called the Crystalline Sea or the Celestial Administration. In this place, divine law and order are completely established. It is here that the structure of the universe solidifies, although this level remains spiritual. Yet, the principles of form and function start to emerge. The beings here ensure that the divine plan is carried out perfectly as it moves downward through the layers of creation. They guide souls through their various lifetimes and ensure that the cosmic balance stays intact. This area displays perfect clarity, with the divine will executed with precision. What does this mean for us? First, it is essential to understand that these levels are not physical locations. They are not other planets or galaxies. They are states of consciousness that operate beyond the physical world, beyond thought and emotion. When we connect with these higher levels through meditation, prayer, or other spiritual practices, we are returning to our true beginnings. We remember where we all come from. The higher domains remind us that we are not merely physical entities. We are spiritual beings who are part of a far grander cosmic plan. Second, these higher levels are critical to the evolution of the soul. They provide divine wisdom, guidance, and protection, even if we are not always aware of it. The ascended beings, archangels, and other guides from these levels help us deal with life's challenges by offering wisdom and light when we need it most. They serve as bridges between the source and the material world, ensuring that the divine plan continues even amid chaos. Eventually, the 12th down to the 8th levels show the highest possible states of being, where the soul is completely connected to the source and the universe functions in perfect harmony. As we progress through the lower levels, our ultimate aim is to return to these higher states to rejoin with the divine fully and act as co-creators in the ongoing expansion of the cosmos. These states are not distant or unreachable. They are where we come from and where our true essence remains. After discussing the higher levels, we now come to what we call the middle levels. These are the stages where duality starts to appear more clearly, and the balance between opposing forces such as light and dark, creation and destruction, becomes a significant factor in existence. These levels, ranging from the 7th to the 4th, mark the transition from the spiritual to the mental and emotional aspects of consciousness. At these stages, the soul begins to experience its individuality more sharply, while still being influenced by the higher energies. This is where the complexity of life as we know it starts to appear. The 7th level, often referred to as the abyss, is a place filled with mystery. It represents the boundary between the higher, non-dual levels and the onset of duality. The abyss is not meant to be seen as evil or dark in the usual sense. Instead, it is the area where the undivided starts to split into opposites, where light and dark, creation and destruction become possible, even if they have not yet fully formed. Here, souls and energy hover in a state of near balance, awaiting the push toward becoming fully formed. Think of it as a waiting period, where energies from the higher states are about to take on a more concrete form. After this threshold, we move to the 6th level, the mental or causal state. At this level, duality is clearly present and balanced. Light and dark are not in conflict, but support each other as necessary parts of existence. This is a state of high spiritual awareness where souls begin to understand their own paths in the context of the larger cosmic plan. It is a place filled with clear understanding and awakening, where the soul sees its role not just for a single lifetime, but across many. The 6th level is also where higher wisdom and compassion reside, with beings like bodhisattvas and avatars guiding others through cycles of rebirth and spiritual growth. The 5th level, known as the mental or Christ-Buddha state, is where the soul starts to work with thought and intellect. At this stage, individual souls begin to craft and shape their own realities using the power of the mind. It is the area where abstract ideas and universal truths first take form. In this state, thought is not only a function of the brain as we typically understand it. It is a creative force. Every thought and intention begins to take shape here, influencing the lower levels of existence. This is why it is often said that thoughts become reality, because in the 5th level, they literally do. Moving further down, we arrive at the 4th level, the astral or emotional plane. Here, individuality and duality are experienced very strongly, and the soul becomes completely involved in the range of opposites. Emotions run high: joy and sorrow, love and fear, hope and despair. This is the state where the soul experiences all the colors of emotions, where emotional impressions are felt, and where the dramas of life occur. In the 4th level, the foundations of our emotional experiences in the physical world are found. It can be turbulent, yet it is also creative. The emotions felt here shape not only our own experiences, but also the shared consciousness of humanity. This level is also the source of desire, where the soul begins to feel attraction or aversion to certain people, events, or ideas. Here, attachment and repulsion come into play, and the cycles of cause and effect are strongly felt. Every action in the lower levels has its roots in the feelings and desires that originate here. Some say that the astral plane is an area of illusion because the strong emotions and desires can make it hard for the soul to see larger truths. However, it is also a place where significant growth occurs as the soul learns from personal experience and mistakes. What does all this mean for us? These middle levels serve as a bridge between the purely spiritual states of the higher levels and the physical experiences we have every day. In these areas, the soul begins to see itself as more distinct, though still heavily influenced by higher energies. They are the settings where the origins of our thoughts, feelings, and longings are found, and where many of our karmic lessons are learned. As the soul works through the patterns it has carried over many lifetimes, the 7th through the 4th levels become the settings in which much of our spiritual development occurs. These are the stages where the soul actively participates in its own growth, learning about duality, compassion, wisdom, and creativity. They are the testing grounds where we face every aspect of human experience, both the pleasant and the challenging, and learn how to overcome the illusion of separation. Now we come to the lower levels, the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st domains. These are the states of physicality, density, and limitation, where spirit becomes its most concrete form. The lower levels are where the lessons of the soul are challenged the most, where duality is unavoidable, and where the most important growth occurs through experiencing separation. This is the level where we live, where we are born into physical bodies, and where we meet the challenges of living in a material world. Yet even in these dense states, the divine plan is at work, guiding us toward an eventual return to the higher states. The 3rd level, the physical plane, is where we are most familiar with our everyday existence. Matter and energy take on the form we recognize as the material world, and the soul enters a physical body to experience life on Earth. Here, we are restricted by time, space, and causality. It is the state with the highest density and the furthest from the source in terms of consciousness, yet it is critical for the growth of the soul. In the 3rd level, the soul experiences the full impact of opposites: pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, love and fear. It is through these experiences that the soul learns, grows, and develops. What makes the 3rd level particularly challenging is its strong appearance of permanence, which can lead us to forget that we are spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. Instead, we often become trapped in the idea that we are isolated from one another, from nature, and from the divine. This is the area where the ego dominates, where material desires and attachments can obscure a higher purpose. Yet it is through these very challenges that the soul matures. Every difficulty, every relationship, every moment of happiness and heartbreak serves as a stepping stone back to the higher states. The 2nd level is known as the etheric or subconscious state. This is the layer just beneath the physical world, a state of energy and life force that animates all living things. It is where the blueprints for the physical form are stored, where patterns of health, vitality, and even emotional and psychological tendencies reside. The etheric body corresponds to the physical body, and in this state, life energy, or prana, moves freely. The etheric level is also where we keep our memories, instincts, and karmic imprints from past lives. It is a state of healing where the soul begins to clear away blockages and past traumas. This state bridges the physical and the spiritual, allowing higher spiritual energies to influence our physical existence. Sometimes people mention feeling an energy in a room or sensing someone before they are seen. That is the etheric state at work. Even though it is subtle, it is powerful enough to affect the physical world behind the scenes. Understanding this level reminds us that there is more to existence than what we immediately observe, and that the physical is only one part of a much larger, multi-dimensional existence. Finally, we reach the first level, the unconscious state or the plane of chaos and entropy. This is the most basic and dense state, where matter and energy begin to break down and return to their original condition. It is a state of disintegration and dissolution, where the cycle of creation pauses before starting anew. This level is often connected with the deepest parts of our unconscious, where the soul is the farthest from its awareness of the source. It is the area of pure survival instinct and basic drives. In some esoteric teachings, this state is linked to what is sometimes called the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we hide or deny, the dark and chaotic forces that we must face in order to grow. Yet, it is important to understand that the first level is not evil. It is a necessary part of the cosmic process, just as death is a natural aspect of life and entropy is a natural part of creation. It is the state where old forms break down to make way for new ones. In this sense, the first level serves as the foundation for change, where everything that comes apart eventually reforms into something new. This state represents endings that are, in fact, new beginnings. From this chaos, new life and new consciousness will emerge. What does this mean for us? The lower levels, especially the third level, are where most of us live out our daily lives. They are the settings for the tests that challenge our character, our beliefs, and our spiritual maturity. It is easy to become lost in the density of these states and to believe that the physical world is all there is. However, these challenges are not obstacles. They are opportunities for growth. Every difficult experience in the lower states is designed to help us remember our true nature as spiritual beings on a path of awakening. The lower levels also remind us that all existence is cyclical. Everything follows the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. Our physical form grows, ages, and eventually dies, only for the soul to return once more, hopefully wiser, stronger, and more aware. Our experiences in these states add layers of understanding and compassion that we carry as we move back to the higher states. The purpose of the lower levels is to refine the soul through the tests of living and to help us recall our divine origin as we prepare to return to the source. After discussing the lower and higher states, it is important to understand how they connect. This connection is what allows us, as spiritual beings, to experience life on earth while still remaining linked to something greater. Two central ideas represent this connection: the silver cord and the abyss. The silver cord is often described as an ethereal thread or link that attaches our physical body to our higher spiritual essence. Think of it as a lifeline that connects the soul to the body while allowing our conscious self to move beyond the physical. It anchors us to the physical state, but also reaches upward into higher dimensions, linking us directly to the Oversoul and the Source. In many spiritual traditions, this cord is seen as the channel through which life energy flows from the higher states down into the material world. You can compare the silver cord to an umbilical cord. Just as a baby in the womb receives nourishment through its cord, we, as souls, are nourished by the silver cord. It provides us with spiritual energy, guides us with higher wisdom, and maintains our connection to the source. That is why, during out-of-body experiences, the silver cord remains intact. It allows the soul to travel beyond the physical body without being completely separated from life. It is said that only at death is this cord finally cut, releasing the soul entirely back into the higher states. While the silver cord connects us vertically, another important element in our spiritual experience is the abyss. The abyss is often misunderstood as a place of darkness or separation, but in truth, it marks the boundary between unity and duality. It is the gap that separates the higher, non-dual states from the dualistic middle and lower levels. The abyss is not a location of evil or wrongdoing. It is a space of significant transition. Here, energies that originate in a state of oneness begin to split into opposites, light and dark, positive and negative, creation and destruction. This splitting is necessary for existence in the lower states. Crossing the abyss is a critical test for the soul. It is the point at which we begin to see ourselves as separate from the divine, from each other, and from the cosmos. This is where the idea of duality takes hold. However, the abyss is not a permanent barrier. It is a temporary separation designed to allow the soul to experience individuality. Through this experience of being apart, the soul eventually learns to see the oneness in all things. The abyss can be both a challenge and an opportunity. It is where the soul faces its greatest tests, where the pull of illusion and division is strongest, but it is also where the most significant growth occurs. Souls that successfully cross the abyss gain great understanding about the nature of duality and the connection of all things. In this state of apparent separation, we come to understand that even duality is an illusion and that everything remains connected at its core. In many esoteric teachings, the abyss is symbolized by the passage from the higher non-dual state, the seventh level, down into the sixth and fifth levels, where duality begins. When we cross the abyss, we move from experiencing unity with the divine to experiencing our individuality. This is when the soul starts to see itself as separate, while it also begins to discover its unique identity, purpose, and role in the grand cosmic design. How do the silver cord and the abyss work together? While the abyss represents the separation between things, the silver cord ensures that we are never completely disconnected from our true spiritual nature. Even when we are immersed in the physical state, the silver cord remains a lifeline, a direct connection to the higher states and the source. It is through this connection that we receive guidance, healing, and spiritual understanding, even when we are caught up in the illusion of everyday life. The silver cord is also active during our spiritual practices, whether in meditation, prayer, or deep contemplation, allowing us to move upward into higher states and access the wisdom of our soul and higher self. When we are in tune with our silver cord, we remember that we are spiritual beings temporarily living in a physical body. This awareness is a powerful way to overcome the challenges and deceptions of the lower state. On the other hand, crossing the abyss represents the soul's passage through cycles of reincarnation and spiritual awakening. Every time we reincarnate, we pass through the abyss, experiencing duality and individuality. But as we progress spiritually, we learn that the abyss is not a barrier, but a gateway, a necessary step that provides the experience needed for the soul to grow. In many ways, the abyss is a rite of passage that allows the soul to move beyond the illusion of separation. The physical world, with all its challenges and contrasts, is important because it gives us the chances to learn, grow, and eventually rise above the sense of being divided. The abyss serves both as the greatest test and as the best instructor. Together, the silver cord and the abyss form the framework of our spiritual experience. The cord makes sure that no matter how far into the dense physical state we travel, we remain connected to our true origin, and the abyss challenges us to confront the delusions of separation and to experience the full range of opposites. In the final stage, we reach what may be the most significant concept in this entire cosmic structure, the process of ascension, and the nature of the matrix that surrounds us. Ascension is not merely a mystical idea. It is the soul's ultimate return to the higher states, a coming awake from the deceptions of the lower states and a merging back with the source. This is the path we are all on, whether we recognize it or not. Ascension is the process by which we rise above the restrictions of the physical, mental, and emotional states and move back toward the divine, shedding layers of density and duality as we go. But before we discuss ascension further, let us consider the matrix in spiritual terms. The matrix is the network of illusion and control that keeps us tied to the lower states, especially the physical one. It consists of systems of belief, societal structures, and limitations that make us lose sight of who we truly are. The matrix plays on dualities such as light versus dark, right versus wrong, and fear versus love, keeping us caught in these oppositions. It makes us feel separate from each other, separate from the divine, and restricted by the material world. Although the matrix is strongly connected to the physical level, the third level, its influence stretches into the lower and middle states as well. It traps us in cycles of reincarnation by forcing us to relive the same lessons over and over. This is why the physical world often seems so heavy and challenging, because the matrix is designed to keep our attention on external matters and temporary issues rather than the eternal truths of our spiritual nature. However, within the matrix lies a way to gain freedom. Ascension means waking up to the understanding that the matrix is not the ultimate truth. It is a system, yes, but it is not unbreakable. Once we realize this, we can begin to overcome it. Ascension is about reclaiming our true spiritual authority and breaking free from the limiting beliefs and structures that keep us stuck in the lower states. It is the recognition that we are not just physical beings confined by time and space, but multidimensional beings who can rise above these boundaries. The process of ascension begins with awareness. We start to notice the weaknesses in the matrix and question the systems and beliefs imposed on us about who we are and what is possible. This is the awakening phase when the soul begins to remember its divine origin. Once we see through the false claims of the matrix, we begin to change our state of being. We start to live more from love, unity, and higher wisdom, rather than from fear, separation, and material attachments. However, ascension is not a one-time event. It is a gradual process. It unfolds over many lifetimes as the soul learns, grows, and develops with each experience. With every life and every lesson, we come closer to our true nature. We begin to show more light, compassion, and wisdom, and our frequency increases, making us less affected by the heavy energies of the lower states. We start to live more from the heart and more in tune with higher states, even though we are still in the physical state. During the process of ascension, the silver cord we mentioned earlier becomes more active. It acts as our spiritual lifeline, drawing us upward and connecting us to higher states of consciousness. As we rise, we also begin to dissolve the barriers of the abyss, realizing that the separation between ourselves and the divine was never permanent. The higher we rise, the more we see that everything is connected and that the matrix was only a temporary structure meant to help us learn, not something that defines us. With ongoing spiritual practice, meditation, and dedication to our soul's purpose, there comes a time when we no longer need to reincarnate in the dense states. We move beyond the cycles of birth and death. That is ascension in its truest form. The soul returning to its higher self, reuniting with the oversoul and merging again with the divine source. It is the final release from the matrix, the realization that we were always divine and interconnected. Ascension is not something reserved for a few. It is the destiny of every soul. Some may be further along than others, but eventually all souls will awaken, all will rise, and all will return to the source. The matrix, as strong as it might seem, is temporary, while ascension is everlasting. As we accept this truth, we begin to recover our true power, our true identity, and our true purpose in the grand design of the universe. Today, the implications of a 12-domain universe are far-reaching. This concept invites us to redirect our focus away from external struggles and material concerns toward the inner work of spiritual growth. It reminds us that every experience, whether joy or suffering, success or failure, is part of the soul's learning process. Every moment offers a chance to rise up, to remember who we really are, and to live more from our true nature. The universe is not something separate from us. It is something we are inherently part of. The 12-domain model shows us that we are both the seekers and the source of what we search for in modern spirituality. This understanding can change how we view our lives, helping us make sense of the chaos, conflict, and confusion that sometimes fill our days. By recognizing the cosmic structure in which we live, we find comfort in knowing that the challenges of the lower states are temporary and meaningful. They are here to help us ascend rather than hold us back. As we grow in our spiritual practice, we can handle these states with greater balance, wisdom, and love. Moreover, this knowledge brings us together. The 12-domain universe erases the illusion that we are separate from others, from different beliefs, or even from life and death. It shows us that we are all on the same cosmic path, each playing a part in the overall design of existence. With this awareness, we can move past fear and judgment and live with more compassion and unity with everyone. As we reach the end of this explanation, remember that we are much more than we appear to be. We are not just physical beings going through a material life. We are souls on an eternal course, rising through states of consciousness and returning to the source. The 12-domain universe reminds us that our story is cosmic, timeless, and deeply spiritual. It calls us to awaken, to rise up, and to reconnect with the infinite. In doing so, we come to realize the greatest truth of all. We are the universe itself, expressing itself in countless forms as we make our way back to the divine. This is not the conclusion, but a new start, a door to clearer understanding and an invitation to live from a space of higher consciousness. The 12-domain universe offers us the map, but the path is ours to travel.